In a world where gold opens doors but rarely opens hearts, where powerful sons refuse love and mothers watch in silence, one woman dared to walk away from her throne, stripped of jewels, dressed in rags, all to answer one question: can true love still exist when wealth is taken away? This is not just a story. It is a lesson hidden in disguise. It is the journey of a billionaire mother who pretended to be a poor beggar just to find a woman who could love her son, not for his crown, but for his soul. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change how you see love, pride, and truth forever. In the sun-scorched heart of the kingdom of Omtali, where golden rivers snaked through emerald forests and antelope danced in the dawn, there stood a palace more splendid than the stars. This was the home of Queen Amartha, most powerful woman in the land, and her only son, Prince Jabari. Jabari was tall as the baobab, proud as the lion, and cold as the midnight breeze. Born into unimaginable riches, he wore silk robes woven from moonlight and rode elephants adorned with jewels. Yet, in his heart, he carried an iron wall, impenetrable and distant. His mother, Queen Amara, had once ruled beside her husband, a kind and wise king. But ever since the king's death, her deepest wish was to see her son fall in love, not just marry, but truly love. Yet Jabari refused all suitors. "They only want my crown," he would say with a sneer. "They crave the palace, not the man." Behind it, women of all kinds, noble, foreign, even daughters of other kings had paraded through the palace gates, their eyes gleaming with desire. But none saw the real Jabari. And Jabari, in return, saw nothing in them. One night, under a sky flooded with stars, Queen Amara sat alone in the royal garden. Fireflies danced like spirits around her, and the scent of jasmine perfumed the air. She whispered to the wind, "How do I find a woman who will love my son for his soul, not his status?" Then, like thunder cracking across the plains, a thought struck her. If the women Jabari meets only see his wealth, what if I take wealth out of the picture? And so, the queen made a decision that would change the kingdom forever. In the days that followed her decision, Queen Amara withdrew from the glittering court life. She spoke little to her advisors, even less to her servants. Behind the closed doors of her private chambers, she opened a wooden chest no one had touched. In years, inside were her old village clothes, faded fabrics stitched with love and memory. Garments from her youth, before she married the king, before the palace and power. Her fingers traced the worn threads, and for a moment, she smiled. It had been decades since she'd lived as a common woman. But she had not forgotten. She packed a bundle. One plain dress, a gourd for water, a woven basket, a handful of copper coins, and a staff once gifted to her by her grandmother. Carved with protective symbols, then she summoned her most trusted maid, Loma, a woman who had nursed her, cried with her, and kept her secrets. "Loma," she said, "I must vanish from this palace, but not as a queen. I go in search of love, not for myself, but for my son. Tell no one where I've gone. Say only that I have gone to the holy mountains to pray for Jabari." Tears welled in Loma's eyes. "You will walk among lions, my queen." Queen Amara touched her shoulder gently. Yes, but even lions recognize the strength of a mother's heart. And with that, she walked away from the palace under the cover of dawn, disguised not as royalty, but as a frail, wandering beggar. Days passed as she traveled by foot through villages and plains. She slept under acacia trees, ate roasted maize offered by strangers, and drank from clear brooks. Bones ached, her feet blistered, but her resolve never cracked. Then one evening, she reached the village of Kasimba. It was a small place nestled between two hills, known for its goat herders, clay artisans, and warm people. Queen Amara, now calling herself Mama Nia, sat beneath a mango tree at the village square. Her basket lay before her, empty. Dust clung to her face. Her royal bearing, now hidden beneath wrinkles and silence. Alms for the old. Anything for a tired soul, she whispered to those who passed. Most ignored her. A few children pointed, giggled, then ran off. But as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in strokes of fire and gold, a young woman approached. She was not dressed richly. Her clothes were patched but clean. Her hands were calloused, holding a clay jug. But her eyes, those deep brown eyes, were filled with light. "Mother," she said softly, "are you hungry?" Queen Amara looked up. "I've not eaten since the last moonrise." Without hesitation, the girl sat beside her, opened her own pouch, and gave Mama Naya a handful of roasted cassava and a drink of clean water. "What is your name, child?" the queen asked gently. "I am Zola," the girl replied, smiling. Zola. The name meant love. Zola lived in a simple mud hut on the edge of the village with her blind father, who had once been a teacher. Since her mother's passing, she had taken every burden upon herself, farming, cleaning, cooking, even repairing their thatch roof. Mama Nia watched her closely in the days that followed. Each morning, Zola helped her father bathe, led him by hand to sit outside, and read to him from memory stories she had heard long ago. In the afternoons, she would fetch water not only for herself, but for the elderly neighbor too sick to walk. And every evening, Zola brought food to Mama Nia. "Why do you help me, child?" Mama Nia asked one night as stars bloomed above them. Zola tilted her head. "Why not? You are someone's mother, someone's grandmother. You have stories in your eyes." Queen Amara's heart, though disguised and buried, felt the tremble. Of truth, this girl was no ordinary villager. She had the heart of a queen, though she wore no crown. But the queen needed to be sure. Acts of kindness could be fleeting. Was Zola truly who she seemed? So the queen began to test her. One morning, Mama Naya feigned injury, falling and crying in the middle of the marketplace. People gathered, curious but unwilling. Some laughed. Some walked away. Zola ran barefoot through the crowd and knelt beside her mama. "What hurts? Tell me." When others shouted, "She's just a beggar." "Let her be." Zola turned with fire in her voice. "Then, shame on you all," she snapped. "If it were your mother, would you walk away?" She lifted the queen, cleaned her wound, and took her home. The next day, Mama Nia pretended to have lost a child, wandering the village, weeping for a boy that didn't exist. Again, Zola comforted her, offered to search the village, and stayed with her until nightfall. Each test was met with patience, compassion, and strength. On the seventh day, Queen Amara knew she had found her. That night, under the full moon, Mama Nia spoke. "Zola, if someone offered you a better life, a chance to leave this village, would you take it?" Zola hesitated. "Only if I could take my father, even if you had to serve in a palace." Mama Nia asked. "I would serve with joy." Zola smiled. "So long as I was not serving lies." The queen's heart stirred. This girl feared no hard work, only dishonesty. So she gave Zola a sealed letter. "Take this to the city of Umtali. There is work there. A woman named Loma will help you." Zola, curious but trusting, accepted. She packed her few belongings, kissed her father goodbye, and set out on a journey that would change her life forever. Zola arrived at the city gates of Umtali just as the morning mist gave way to sunlight. Towers of ivory and sandstone stretched into the sky, and the streets bustled with merchants, guards, dancers, and drummers. The capital city pulsed like a living creature with color and noise. She stood frozen for a moment, overwhelmed. But she clutched the sealed letter Mama Nia had given her and pressed forward. "Excuse me?" she asked a fruit vendor. "Where can I find someone named Loma?" The vendor pointed toward the royal quarters. She serves in the queen's palace. But be warned, girl, many come with dreams. Not all leave with smiles. Still, Zola went. Inside the palace, Loma, tall, graceful woman with silver earrings and a sharp gaze, opened the letter. Eyes widened. She studied Zola closely. Follow me, she said. Zola was led through grand halls covered in gold leaf, past dancers rehearsing, through aromatic kitchens filled with spices, and into a quiet courtyard where songbirds nested in tall trees. From now on, Loma said, you'll serve in the queen's private wing. You'll clean, carry water, and assist with morning routines. But speak little, watch more. Zola nodded. She never asked why she was chosen, nor did she ask who had written the letter. She simply did her work with the same grace she showed. In her village, but not everyone was pleased with the newcomer. Prince Jabari, tall and sharp-jawed, spotted her from the balcony days later. Who is that? Kay asked his steward. A village girl. A new handmaid in the queen's wing. Jabari scoffed. We're letting anyone in now, aren't we? His steward smirked, pleased to echo Jabari's pride. Indeed, my prince. But the queen, still keeping her disguise secret from her son, noticed something different in Zola. She had an aura of stillness. Not only did she complete her tasks, she often did others' work without being asked. Still, the queen watched silently. The real test had not yet begun. One afternoon, Jabari happened upon Zola in the palace garden. She was on her knees, fixing a broken water basin used for birds. Mud streaked her dress, but her hands moved with care. He paused. Why do you care about birds? Zola looked up. Because they bring songs, even when no one asks them to. Jabari laughed. Philosopher in rags. What do you hope to get from all this kindness? A crown. Zola stood. I've worn crowns of sweat my whole life. They're heavier than gold. That reply pierced something in Jabari, though he didn't show it. He left, but he remembered her words. Over the next weeks, their paths crossed again. Zola helped lift a sick kitchen boy into a medic's arms, but no one else would. She refused to accept payment from visiting merchants when they tried. To tip her for her service, she declined luxurious clothes offered by other handmaids. Why? One of them asked, you could at least enjoy the palace. Zola replied, comfort doesn't grow your heart, struggle does. These words found their way to the queen, who smiled in secret. But Prince Jabari remained torn, each time he insulted. Zola, she answered with calm dignity. Each time he challenged her, she responded with honesty. And one day, he saw something that changed everything. A noblewoman tripped and broke a priceless sculpture in the gallery. Guards rushed in, and the noble, in her arrogance, pointed at Zola. She pushed me. She lied. Zola stood still. The queen, watching from the shadows, remained silent. Jabari arrived, is it true? Zola looked him in the eye. No. But if it pleases you, punish me. Everyone gasped. Jabar. I was stunned. Why not defend yourself? Because I serve truth. And it reveals itself in time. I have no fear of it. And then, just as if destiny had been waiting for this moment, a guard entered. Your Highness, he said, the sculpture room has drawings. The girl is innocent. Jabari turned to the noblewoman. You would lie to me in my father's palace. The noble fled. Shame. Zola bowed. You see, Your Highness, truth always shows its face. That night, Jabari walked the royal garden, pacing under the stars. Something inside him had shifted. Some wall he had built now crumbled. Zola was unlike anyone he had ever known. And, for the first time in years, he couldn't stop thinking about someone else. Not her beauty, though she had it. Not her silence, though it was powerful, but her truth. The queen summoned Zola to her private chambers days later. You've done well, she said with a hidden smile. Tell me, how do you find the prince? Zola hesitated. It's like a lion in a cage. Powerful, but restless. Would you ever marry such a man? Zola blinked. Only if you let me open the door. The queen chuckled. Later, she told Loma, we are close now. But the final test is his. He must choose her, without force, without titles. Only then will the mask fall. The palace of Amtali stood still beneath a rare silence. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. A storm brewed not in the sky, but in the heart of a prince who had spent his life untouched by love. Now shaken by a girl with bare feet and iron in her soul. Prince Jabari had begun to watch Zola not as a prince, not as a skeptic, but as a man who had never truly seen someone before. She moved like music, quietly, purposefully, gracefully. She spoke with weight and clarity. She laughed without seeking permission. And each time she passed, something inside Jabari grew restless. Not in anger, but in longing. He hated that he cared. He hated that she didn't. In the palace courtyard, as drums rehearsed for an upcoming royal festival, Jabari sat alone near the marble fountain. His thoughts were far from celebration. Zola appeared nearby, carrying water jars. A servant dropped a basket of fruit, and Jabari watched as she bent down, helped the man, and didn't even notice Jabari staring. He stood, walked toward her. Zola, he said. She turned calmly. Yes, Your Highness. He studied her. Do you ever wonder what it would be like to live beyond this palace? To have your own life? Zola smiled softly. I live every day as if it's mine. No palace changes that. Jabari exhaled, frustrated. You never answer questions simply. Simple answers are for those who ask simple questions. He blinked, stunned, and then laughed. For once, not mockingly, she smiled too. Just slightly. Later that week, the queen summoned Jabari privately to the royal chamber. She sipped spiced tea slowly, watching her son pace like a lion. You've changed, she said. Jabar, I didn't deny it. I don't know what's happening to me. Then it's happening, she replied with a knowing gleam. He frowned. What do you mean? I mean, when the heart finds a mirror, the soul grows confused. And then clear. You're speaking in riddles again, she laughed. No, you're finally listening. Then she added gently, if you were to choose a bride not for the throne, not for alliance, but for your own soul, who would she be? He froze, and in the silence that followed, his heart answered before his mouth did. That night, there was a feast held for a visiting delegation. Firelight bathed the halls, music soared through the pillars, and nobles danced in bright robes. Jabari searched for Zola, but she was nowhere to be seen. He asked a steward, then another. Finally, one whispered she was dismissed, sent back to her village. What Jabari's voice shook the walls. Who gave that order? The steward cowered. The queen, she said. The girl had served her purpose. Rage bloomed in Jabari's chest. He stormed to the queen's chamber. Why? He demanded. Why did you send her away? The queen sipped her tea, calm as dusk. Because you needed to feel it. Feel what? Loss, longing, the ache of missing something real. Only then can you know if it was real to begin with. Jabari slammed his fist into a pillar. She didn't deserve that. No, the queen said gently. But she was willing to walk away. And that is why she deserves everything. Then she stood, and at that moment, the doors to the chamber opened, and in stepped Zola, not in a servant's robe, not barefoot, but in a royal blue dress, gifted to her by the queen herself. Jabari stared. His heart thudded in disbelief. Zola, graceful as ever, stepped forward. You summoned me, Your Highness. The queen stood between them. "Son," she said, "there's something you must know." Then, like a curtain dropping from the heavens, the truth fell. "I am Mama Nia." Jabari's eyes widened. Zola gasped. "What?" The queen continued. "I left this palace disguised as a beggar. I found Zola in a village far from here. She gave me food when she had none. Kay healed me when I faked injury. She sheltered me even when others turned away. She loved without knowing I was anyone." At all, Jabari stared at Zola. "You knew nothing." Zola's voice trembled. "Nothing. I only followed kindness." The queen turned to Jabari, and she passed every test. "But this last test, son, is for you. Would you see her as she is, without a title, without a crown?" Silence. Zola lowered her eyes. "If this was all a game, I understand. I can leave." But before she could turn, Jabari stepped forward. He fell to one knee. "I am the fool who believed love was weakness," he said. "And you are the strongest person I've ever known." He reached for her hand. "You were never beneath me. I was blind, but now I see. If you'll have me not as prince, but as man, I would walk beside you forever." Zola looked to the queen, who nodded gently. Then she smiled and said, "Only if you promise not to put me in a cage." He laughed through tears. "Only in my heart." And so, the palace that had long echoed with loneliness now roared with joy. Trumpets sounded. Dancers spun like the wind. Even the marble walls seemed to sing. But in the quietest corner of the palace, the queen stood alone, watching them from her balcony. Loma joined her, whispering, "It worked." The queen nodded. Because real love can never be bought, only found. And when found, it must be tested. 1,000 drums echoed across the valleys of Amtali. Smoke from sweet incense curled into the sky, and golden banners danced in the wind. The palace was alive with the spirit of celebration, and the kingdom knew something extraordinary had happened. The stubborn prince had changed. The woman of no name had become the queen of his heart, and the queen who had disguised herself as a beggar had become the architect of her son's destiny. The wedding was set to last 7 days and 7 nights, as tradition demanded. Elders from every village arrived. Griots, those ancient storytellers, sang songs of wisdom, while children danced barefoot in circles of joy. On the first day of celebration, Jabari wore not royal robes, but simple cloth, as a symbol of humility. Zola wore a flowing dress dyed with indigo and fireleaf, sewn by the very villagers who once lived beside her. The ceremony took place under the sacred baobab tree at the center of the palace gardens. The same tree where Jabari had once scoffed at Levant, where he now pledged his heart. "I vow," Jabari said, "to see the soul before the status, the heart before the house, and the truth before the crown." Zola smiled, tears in her eyes. "And I vow to love the man behind the prince, even when he forgets who he is." The queen blessed them both. "May your love never need disguise. May your home always welcome truth." Cheers erupted like thunder, and petals rained from the balconies above. Each day of the festival brought a new lesson, a new gift. On the second day, they visited the village of Kasimba, where Zola's father was honored. He wept as his daughter was crowned with garlands by children. On the third day, they opened the palace gates to the poor and the forgotten. "Let no one be a stranger here," Zola said. On the fourth day, Queen Amara held a secret council. "Let us change the laws," she said, "so love and merit may choose the future, not only bloodlines." On the fifth day, Jabari and Zola served meals to orphans. They laughed and danced among them. For the first time, the prince wasn't a ruler, but a friend. On the sixth day, Zola gifted Mama Nia's old walking stick, cleaned, polished, and mounted in Golto, the queen. "You walked the hard road for us," she said. The queen wept, and on the seventh day, the entire kingdom watched as Jabari and Zola walked hand in hand to the mountaintop temple where the ancestors were honored. There, they poured liba tea. Stalked there, they lit the eternal flame. There, they made a final vow that love, not wealth, would be the inheritance of their children. Years passed. Zola became a queen unlike any other. She spoke to farmers with the same voice she used for diplomats. She opened schools and villages and built bridges where rivers once divided people. Jabari, no longer blinded by pride, ruled with compassion. He traveled often, speaking with the poor, listening to their stories, learning from their lives. And Queen Amaran, old, wise, and joyful, sat under her favorite mango tree each morning, watching her grandson play with village children in the royal garden. Loma once asked her, "Do you regret pretending to be poor?" The queen smiled. "No, because I had to become poor, to show my son what true riches look like." And so the story spread across lands and tongues. Some said it was a tale of royalty and disguise. Others said it was a love story. But the wise knew the truth. It was the story of a mother's wisdom, a prince's awakening, and a woman whose heart carried more wealth than any palace could hold. Asterisk, asterisk, thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment "end" so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, stay happy. Goodbye.